Dr. Margaret Eomurian lives in Houston, Texas with her husband. She has an interdisciplinary doctorate in English and Spanish linguistics from the University of Houston. She is passionate about teaching and has 47 years of experience teaching ESL and Spanish at proprietary schools, universities, and the community college, both in the US and abroad. She spent 7 years living in Venezuela, where she taught ESL and became fluent in Spanish. In the fall of 2020, she retired from teaching Spanish at Houston Community College, where she has taught since 1988 after returning from Venezuela. During her time at the college, she served as division chair of developmental reading, ESL, and world languages, director of the service learning program, faculty advisor for Campus Crusade for Christ, and a program coordinator for the world language department. Currently, she is volunteering as a curriculum consultant for Prestige Learning Institute, a local nonprofit organization that provides ESL classes for immigrants. She also leads an online Bible study fellowship group for women in both the US and abroad. So at this time, I will pass it to Margaret, and she will be presenting for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have 30 minutes Q&A afterwards. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to talk to you today about the American education system beyond high school. Even though I went to a university myself for all of my degrees, I did spend 30 plus years teaching at a community college. So I'm familiar with both of those. Next slide, please. So post-secondary education is what happens after high school. It's optional, and many people don't go beyond. They just finish high school and they start working, and usually are not making very much money, but some of them don't have a choice. They have to start working. And it's delivered at 4,360 institutions, and they're known as colleges or universities. And sometimes those are interchangeable. People will say college when they mean university, or university when they mean college. And they could be public or private, as Dr. Esther mentioned. They could be research universities, liberal arts colleges, community colleges, or for-profit colleges. And what you can get, students can obtain after going to a college or university are starting at the lowest level would be a level 1 or level 2 certificate. That's a short-term program, and usually is 1 semester or more. They can get an associate degree, which is a 2-year program with the option to transfer to a university that's a 4-year university. So they would do the 2 years associate and then transfer the last 2 years at a university. The bachelor's degree, which is probably the most common degree, is a 4-year program. And it's kind of like the rite to passage in the American dream, is to get your bachelor's degree. The master's degree is usually 1 to 2 years after the bachelor's degree. And then the final degree is a doctoral degree, which is 1 or more years beyond the master's. Usually the longest I've heard is waiting 6 years, but the universities usually want you to finish as soon as possible. The certificate and associate degrees are usually offered at community colleges. And when I was going to the university and finished high school, I had never heard of community colleges, and many people haven't. But that's where students can get an associate degree. And they can get jobs after getting a certificate or an associate degree, or they can transfer directly to a 4-year university where they complete the last 2 years. But they have to have the associate degree, because really the first 2 years at a 4-year university are the same as the associate degree. So it's cheaper to go to a community college and then transfer the last 2 years. Next slide. In San Antonio, you have the Alamo Colleges District, so that you have 5 different colleges. And in Houston, the colleges will specialize. That maybe the Central College is more emphasizing computer science or business. And in San Antonio, it's there's a difference between what's offered at each of those colleges. So you have San Antonio College, St. Philip's College, Northeast Lakeview College, Northwest Vista College, and Palo Alto College. So there are a lot of options, and it probably depends on where you live, which would be most convenient. Some of the certificate programs, that's the lowest level. You can become a dental assistant after studying 3 semesters and have a certificate. There are lots and lots of different certificate programs, but I just chose those, the dental assisting and accounting technician, which are jobs that would help you earn a salary higher than if you just had a high school diploma. The level 2 certificate is medical assisting, which is 4 semesters, and emergency medical technician, which is 4 semesters. And many people will get a emergency medical technician certificate, and then they end up going on to medical school beyond that. The associate degrees, there are more than just these 4, but these are the main ones. The Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, Associate of Arts and Teaching, and Associate of Applied Science. So the courses that you take in an associate degree are basically the same ones that a student takes the first 2 years at a 4-year university. You're really not taking any courses in your major the first 2 years at a university. So the core courses, what they call the core courses, are the same, but much cheaper. So that's why many people get an associate degree. But what happens with a lot of our students is that they will take the first year at a community college and say, oh, I'm tired, I want to go ahead and transfer to the university. And when they do that, then the university will look at the courses they had and just look at the list and say, I'll take this one and this one and this one, but I'm not going to accept this course. But if you get your full associate degree, do the whole program for 2 years, the entire block transfers to the university without any question. It's you have your associate degree, you start out in your 3rd year at the university. One thing I noticed at San Antonio, they have a unique where you can go from a registered nurse to a bachelor of science nurse, which earns a higher salary. And what they can do is get the associate degree in and become an RN, and then they could be working and then earning a salary, and then go on and get their associate degree. Then they get their active nursing license. And with just 60 hours of coursework after that in 1 year, both face-to-face and online, they can go be qualified to be a BSN, which is a much higher paying job for nursing. Next slide. So the bachelor's degree is usually 4 or 5 years. I think in some universities, engineering is a 5-year program. I know my brothers had to study 5 years. There is a Bachelor of Arts, a BA, a Bachelor of Science, a BS, and Bachelor of Business, BBA. And that's probably the most common degree that's awarded in the United States. Next. The master's degree, you have to apply to graduate school and be accepted. They usually require an exam. The GRE or GMAT, I think, is for business. And it usually is 1 to 2 years after you get the bachelor's degree. And students usually write a thesis at the end of the program. And it also gives you a higher salary. Some people will get a bachelor's degree, go to work, and then get a master's degree, and their salary goes up. Okay, next slide. The doctoral degree is the highest. It's PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, or EDD, Doctor of Education. And that's the highest degree you can earn. And most professors at the university have a PhD or an EDD. And you first have to, well, not always, you don't always have to have a master's degree first. My niece went straight from a bachelor's degree in chemistry straight to a PhD at Northwestern University. She just skipped the master's. So she finished earlier. So there, when you're trying to decide what college to go to, you should start like with your career goal. What is it you want to be? And Alamo College's, excuse me, on their website has a wonderful, what they call a career coach. And when you click on it, it takes you through a questionnaire and it suggests different programs you might be, that might apply to what you particularly are interested in doing. Or if you have no idea what career you want, it kind of guides you through. And then thinking about the major is what your principal area of study is. Not every university is necessarily good in engineering or necessarily good in or well known for mathematics. So if there's something you really want to study, and you know ahead of time, it's good to look for a university that has one of the outstanding programs in chemistry, for example. Also, if you're considering sending your child to a university outside of San Antonio or outside of where you live, the housing and meal plans, or what they call room and board, sometimes ends up being almost the same amount as the tuition. And so you're spending a lot of money when, if you go to a community college, the room and board, it would be if you live at home, your son or daughter lives at home, you're providing a room and food for them so that you're not having to pay that, at least for the first 2 years. And then the cost of tuition, because it's not the same. And tuition is also, there is the cost of the number of courses that you're taking, plus a lot of fees that are kind of hidden fees. I know our college had a computer use or laboratory use fee because some of the classes required a laboratory. So everybody had to pay a laboratory fee. And then whether it's in-state or out of state, when I came back from Venezuela and I went to the University of Houston, I ended up paying triple the tuition because I wasn't considered in-state because I hadn't lived in Houston for that past year. So after a year, I was able to go back down to regular in-state tuition, even though I live in Houston. And also whether it's a private university or a public university. So here's the Alamo College's district career coach. And you take an assessment, and then you can look at the different careers they offer and the education and training programs. And you can also find out what's the most in-demand careers in education based on what you're interested in. So I'm hoping Jonathan will be able to share the presentation with you so that you can click on that link yourself. In U.S. News Best Jobs Rankings 2023, not necessarily the best paying, but just best in terms of conditions and salary. So nearly 40% of the top best jobs, the top 100, are in healthcare or healthcare support roles. But a technology job, software developer, ended up being the #1 spot. And if you click here, you can see the best jobs, and they list all 100. The top 3 jobs are software developer. The projected jobs is 370,600. The median salary is around 120,730. Excuse me. And the education needed is a bachelor's degree. Nurse practitioner is a third of the projected jobs, or fewer jobs, 112,700. The median salary is about the same, and that requires a master's degree. And the third top job was medical and health services manager, And it's 136,200 jobs that they expect to be filled, and salary of 101,340 with a bachelor's degree. And then I found the best jobs without a college degree, where you've just gone to high school, is the number one is medical records technician, and the second one is wind turbine technician. And the highest paying job, not necessarily the best job, but highest paying without a college degree, is number one, a patrol officer. They're making more money because of the danger that they're in. An executive assistant are those two are the top paying jobs without a college degree. Next slide. So the housing costs, most universities have on-campus residence halls or dormitories. If you come from another city, I studied in Austin, Texas, and my family is in Houston. So I was going from another city and lived in a dorm the first 3 years, actually. The average cost of room and board is $8,887 at public colleges and universities, and not much more at private colleges and universities. And some universities, like Trinity University in San Antonio, require all unmarried students to live on campus for 3 years. So you don't have a choice. You have to live on campus for 3 years. But it's a very highly ranked university, and they do offer scholarships. So the tuition cost, you can see here for a full year, is $50,000 to $50,712. That's a lot of money to spend in. That's just 2 semesters, fall and spring. There's an activity fee, a technology fee, and then the meal plan. Because you have to live in the dorm, you're paying $5,518.58 per year to pay for your meals at the dormitory. And in-state and out-of-state, if the ones on the left are in Texas A&M, and Baylor, you can see the private university is $50,000, which is a lot higher than the others in Texas A&M, UT Austin, Texas Tech, or University of Houston. And Florida State, if you live in Texas and go to Florida State, you would be paying $18,000, which is not a whole lot more than in-state for A&M. Oklahoma University is $27,000, University of Arkansas, $26,390, University of Arizona, $37,000, and UCLA is $43,012. And I just picked those universities. So if you're trying to choose between a community college or university, you can see that community colleges that have multiple sites in town. So if you live in the northwest part of Houston, we have a Northwest College. If you live southeast, there's a Southeast College. Whereas a university can be farther from your home. There's only one in the city. The class size is much smaller at the community college. The university is larger. It's up to 300. Remember, my American history course at the University of Texas had 300 students in this big auditorium, whereas at Houston Community College, the history class probably has 30 students in a classroom. The community college is open admission. They don't require an exam like the SAT exam. They do have a test, but it's more just to make sure that you have the math skills and the English skills, writing skills you need, because sadly, many of our high school students cannot read or write very well, and their math skills are very, very weak. So we test them to see if we need to put them in remedial or developmental reading or developmental math, and to help them be ready for college classes so they don't fail. But it's not an exam like the SAT. Whereas the university, you need to get a certain score on an exam, that everybody takes to get in. With the community college, you have more contact with your professors. If you need a letter of recommendation later, if you're in a class, the teacher only has 25 to 30 students, they know their students. Whereas like my history class with 300 students, if I asked my professor for a letter of recommendation, he's like, who are you? It's like, I was the one sitting in row 55 at the very back. But all he would have to go by is my test scores, and that's not enough for a letter of recommendation. The community college also offers workforce programs where you can go earn a skill to, or learn a skill to be able to work in industry, and not necessarily, sometimes the university has, if you have a degree in philosophy, it's a lot harder to find a job than if you study welding or some other workforce program at the college. The community college also doesn't have like the football team necessarily, or the social activities that a large university would have. They do have organizations, social organizations, clubs, and actually Campus Crusade for Christ, where I met Jonathan, had Bible study, weekly Bible study, and we met on campus. And but we didn't have fraternities and sororities like they have at the universities. And next slide. That's it. So any questions?